Ashley's nanny's daughter, Tiffany, sold my $8 million yacht. Said I was constantly having abortions and needed the money donated to a temple to, build up some good karma for me. My brother, Jason, backed her up, totally throwing me under the bus. My classmates turned it into a joke. My fiancé, Ethan, heard about it, thought I was way too wild, and broke off the engagement. So I called the cops. But they all ganged up, claimed I was crazy, and had me committed. My family orchestrated my torture at the asylum, and I died young. Then, I opened my eyes, and I was back on the day the yacht disappeared. I woke up with a start. Tiffany was standing right there, arms spread out, defiantly blocking my path. She flinched when she saw the pure hatred in my eyes, then put on this pathetic, pleading expression. Why did you have to show off your yacht? Couldn't you have just taken everyone to a fancy restaurant? She whined. Ethan, look at her. Just graduated and she's already so extravagant. She'll bankrupt us. Ethan, seeing my face, immediately pulled Tiffany behind him. Enough, Ash. Tiffany already sold the yacht. Just take your friends home. He bent down and tucked a stray hair behind Tiffany's ear. They exchanged a smile, like selling my $8 million yacht was nothing. Their smugness made me sick to my stomach. Grandma gave me that yacht. Who are you two to touch my things? Jason stared at me, shocked, like he couldn't believe I was defying him. Ashley, don't you know who's going to be running things around here? I didn't before, but after dying I knew. I was the true heir to the family fortune. The memory of my past life sent a chill down my spine. My voice turned icy. Oh, so the nanny's daughter steals the employer's yacht, and my brother defends the thief. Guess I have to call the cops before you two confess. Tiffany burst into tears, wailing to my classmates, who were watching the whole thing unfold. I did it for your own good, Ashley. You're always spending money like water, and your personal life is a mess. You've had so many abortions. You need to pray for forgiveness. So I sold the yacht to get money for the temple, so those poor babies can be reborn. My classmates started booing. Last time, Tiffany's lies made me so furious I slapped her. That just pissed Jason off, and he joined Tiffany in lecturing me about sleeping around. My classmates spread the story, which eventually reached Ethan. The engagement was off, and my dad saw me as useless. Tiffany quickly hooked up with Ethan. To get rid of me for good, she and Jason fabricated evidence that I was mentally unstable, and had me committed. They made sure I was abused until I died. Those two adulterous lovers, one took my inheritance, the other took my fiancé. The thought made me tremble with rage. I pulled out my phone. A nanny's daughter accusing her employer? Tiffany, I hope you're this brave when you talk to the police. Let's see what they find out about who's been having all these abortions, and where my yacht went. Tiffany's face went white. She looked to Jason for help. He immediately shielded her, knocking my phone to the ground. Ashley, don't think you can threaten Tiffany and make everyone forget the disgusting things you've done. He turned to my classmates. Today I'm going to teach my sister a lesson, right in front of all of you. Last time his sudden sternness scared me. Not this time. I turned to my classmates. My nanny's daughter stole my yacht, and my brother is protecting her. Someone call the police. They all avoided my gaze. Ashley, Tiffany's so sweet, she would never steal anything. Tiffany's beautiful and generous. She wouldn't do something like that. Tiffany said she was doing it for your own good. Why are you accusing her? Shouldn't you be thanking her? Maybe all those abortions messed with her head. They whispered and snickered. My face burned. Tiffany's generous with my family's money. You. Jason grabbed my wrist, his voice menacing. Enough. Stop embarrassing yourself. Tiffany grew up in our house. She's practically our sister. You're slapping her in the face, which means you're slapping me in the face. I stared at the veins bulging on his forehead and slapped him hard across the face. That's what slapping you in the face looks like. I picked up my phone and frantically dialed my mom's number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried again and again. My heart sank. Everything happened so fast last time. But now I realized something. My mom hadn't been around for any of this. Something was wrong. Ignoring Jason and Tiffany, ignoring my sneering classmates, ignoring the $8 million yacht. I backed away and called my grandma. Her voice was strong and warm. Sweetie, when are you coming to visit? I quickly explained. Grandma, mom's missing. I think Dad, Jason, and the nanny are involved. Jason and Tiffany sold my yacht, but that's not the most important thing. We need to find Mom. As I spoke, I bumped into someone. It was Ethan. Jason and Tiffany caught up. Seeing Ethan, Tiffany's eyes welled up. Ethan, Ashley's been so mean to me. I donated millions to the temple for her, so you two could have a happy marriage, but she's accusing me of wasting money. She even hit Jason. Please talk to her. Tiffany looked sweet and innocent with tears streaming down her face. Ethan's protective instincts kicked in. He glared at me. Ashley, you're out of line. Apologize to Tiffany right now, or I'm breaking off the engagement, on behalf of my family. I looked at them, lined up like last time, ready to destroy me. I gritted my teeth. Apologize? You think I'd apologize to you? Tiffany started sobbing louder. Jason and Ethan fussed over her. I slipped away and ran to the police station. The police were stunned when I told them about the stolen yacht. After confirming I wasn't delusional, they finally agreed to investigate. As I left the station, Tiffany called. Where'd you run off to cry, dear sister? Not used to being beneath me, are you? Her voice dripped with smugness. I snorted. What do you want, Tiffany? I want you to know that your fiancé is mine now. Your brother, too. Everything you had is mine. Everyone's on my side now. Just give up and say goodbye to your yacht. I hung up and turned to the officer who had escorted me out. Did you hear that? While the police investigated, I went to stay with my grandma for safety. She hugged me tight the moment she saw me. Sweetie, what have they done to you? I sniffed back tears. I'm okay. Grandma. Have you heard anything about Mom? She stroked my hair, about to speak, when the front door burst open. It was my dad and Jason. Dad's face was livid. Ashley, after all the disgusting things you've done, you have the nerve to hide here? Come home, apologize to Tiffany, and give her your engagement. I stood tall, meeting his gaze. A nanny's daughter makes up some lies, and you think I'm disgusting? If it's that easy to slander someone, then I think Tiffany and her whole family are dirty. And give me back my yacht. It's Grandma's gift to me. Dad's face turned red. He reached for me. I know what kind of person Tiffany is. She did it for your own good. You ungrateful brat, come home and stay in your room. Grandma stepped in front of me, leaning on her cane. Robert, you think you're so high and mighty now, you don't even call me Mom anymore? Dad's anger seemed to cool. His face went from red to a sickly pale. Then a smirk spread across his lips. Mom, I'm just disciplining my daughter. Please stay out of this. Grandma scoffed. Robert, Ashley is our family. Think carefully before you speak. Dad's face darkened. He pulled out his phone and sent a message. Moments later, the house was surrounded by people with cameras and microphones, crowding around a white van and Tiffany. I pushed through the crowd. Tiffany was sobbing. I did it all for her, but she keeps insulting me. I want everyone to see the truth. Let's see if my dear sister is as pure as she pretends to be. Jason stepped forward and gently wiped away her tears. Tiffany, you've suffered enough. They exchanged a look. Then Tiffany turned to me and shouted. Ashley, you say you haven't been sleeping around. The reporters and doctors are here. Do you dare let them examine you? My head spun. Grandma trembled beside me. You animals. Ashley's my granddaughter. How dare you do this to her? Dad stepped into the crowd, beaming. Sorry, Mom. The marriage between our family and the Millers is too important. We can't send a daughter who's had multiple abortions and ruin the deal. The crowd murmured. Look at Mr. Stone, a real man, making sure his kids stay on the right path. Ashley looks terrified. Maybe it's true. I think it is. Look how calm Tiffany is. I stood there, looking at the growing crowd, gripping Grandma's hand. Then I spoke. Fine. Since Dad's so concerned about the marriage, let's not just examine me. Let's have your precious second daughter examined too. The front courtyard of my grandmother's estate fell into a stunned silence. The morning breeze rustled the willow branches overhead, but between the 24 reporters and the glare of flashing camera lenses, the atmosphere was suffocating. Tiffany's triumphant smile froze. Her pale blue eyes darted to my father, then to Jason, before settling on me with a flicker of panicked defiance. Ashley, what are you talking about? Tiffany's voice trembled with sweet, wounded innocence. I'm only a nanny's daughter. Why should I be tested? Eve. Never done anything disgraceful. You're just trying to drag me into the mud to save your own skin. Exactly. Jason snarled, stepping between Tiffany and the cameras, his fists clenched tight. Ashley, you disgusting creature. Tiffany has lived under our roof with dignity and morals. You're the one who goes to clubs until dawn. How dare you try to humiliate an innocent girl? My father, Robert Stone, scowled deeply, his eyes flashing with a cold warning glare. Ashley, stop making a fool of yourself. This is a family matter, but you force my hand. The medical team is from St. Jude's private hospital. They are professional and discreet. Submit to the preliminary examination. Inside, sign the waiver and we can still salvage the Miller engagement. St. Jude's. My grandmother's cane struck the paved stone with a sharp, echoing clack. Everyone looked at the old matriarch. Grandma stood ramrod straight, her silver hair styled in an austere bun, her eyes cutting through my father like freshly sharpened steel. Robert, Grandma said, her voice low and terrifyingly calm. Do you take me for an old woman who has lost her mind? See, Jude's is funded entirely by your private venture firm. The chief of staff owes his medical license to your donations. Robert's jaw tightened. Mother, that's irrelevant. It is entirely relevant, Grandma interrupted, waving her hand toward the iron driveway gates. 2 black town cars glided smoothly through the entrance, parking directly behind the media vans. 4 uniformed police officers stepped out, followed by 3 female physicians wearing the official coats of the City Forensic and State Medical Examiners Board. Leading them was Dr. Evelyn Reed, the most incorruptible medical director in the state, a woman who answered only to the Department of Justice. "I called Dr. Reed 20 minutes ago," Grandma announced, projecting her voice. So every microphone picked up every syllable. "If there is to be an examination regarding the purity, health, and dignity of my granddaughters, it will be conducted under state supervision with chain of custody protocols. And both girls will undergo full pelvic imaging, blood panels, and ultrasound exams right now inside the mobile medical unit." Tiffany took an involuntary step back. Her face drained of all color. "No," Tiffany whispered, her lower lip trembling. "Mrs. Stone, please, this is degrading. I am not a criminal. Why should I be forced into a police van?" "Degrading?" I took a slow, deliberate step toward her, looking down at her shaking frame. 10 minutes ago, you brought 30 reporters and a private film crew to force me onto an exam table in front of the world. Why are you trembling now, Tiffany? Weren't you the one boasting about praying for my aborted babies? Weren't you the one who wanted the truth revealed? Jason!" Tiffany shrieked, grabbing my brother's sleeve with white-knuckled desperation. "Jason, tell them. I won't do it. I won't let them touch me." Jason stepped forward aggressively, pointing a finger at Dr. Reed. "Get off our property. You have no warrant. I won't let you lay a finger on." Mr. Jason Stone, Detective Vance of the Special Investigations Division, stepped out from behind Dr. Reed, unbuttoning his suit jacket to reveal his gold badge and service weapon. "This is not merely a medical inquiry. We have an open grand theft and interstate wire fraud warrant regarding the unauthorized liquidation of the luxury vessel the Sea Empress, valued at $8.2 million. As the primary suspect who executed the bill of sale, Miss Tiffany Higgins is required to submit to physical and biological booking procedures." The reporters gasped. The shutter clicks became a deafening storm. "Guide froth. The yacht wasn't donated to a temple. Who authorized the sale?" My father's face shifted from furious red to an ashen, sickly gray. He lunged forward to grab Detective Vance's arm, but 2 uniform officers immediately stepped into his path. "Detective, this is a private family dispute," Robert stammered. "Step back, Mr. Stone," Vance commanded. I looked at Tiffany, whose eyes were wide with animal terror, and smiled. "After you, dear sister," I said softly. "Let's see what the doctors find." The mobile forensic unit was sterile, cold, and silent. I sat calmly on the paper-lined examination table, while Dr. Reed administered an ultrasound, blood draw, and gynecological examination. The entire procedure was recorded on official state body cameras to preserve the integrity of the evidence. 10 minutes later, I walked out of the partition, fully clothed, buttoning my ivory blouse. On the other side of the curtain, Tiffany was sobbing hysterically, thrashing against the exam table, until 2 female officers had to hold her shoulders down to complete the blood panel. "Let me go. You're violating my rights." "Robert! Jason!" she screamed, her voice muffled through the reinforced glass. When Dr. Reed stepped out of the van 20 minutes later, holding 2 sealed manila folders, 40 cameras zoomed in on her face. Robert and Jason were pacing by the fountain, while Ethan Miller stood near the edge of the crowd, having just arrived in his sports car, looking bewildered and irritable. "What's going on here?" Ethan demanded, pushing his way through the reporters toward Jason. "I received a tip that Ashley was throwing a tantrum. Is she refusing the medical clearance for our wedding?" "Dr. Reed," Grandma spoke, leaning heavily on her cane, her voice cutting through the noise. "Read the findings on the public record." Dr. Reed adjusted her glasses and opened the first folder marked Ashley Stone. "Patient Ashley Stone. The pelvic ultrasound and transvaginal imaging demonstrate completely normal, unscarred uterine architecture. The cervical OS is circular and nulliparous. There is 0 evidence of uterine trauma, dilation, curettage, or previous gestation." Dr. Reed looked directly into the news cameras. "Miss Ashley Stone has never been pregnant. She has never undergone an abortion, surgical or chemical, in her entire life. Her reproductive health is pristine, and she is an anatomical virgin." The crowd erupted. "A virgin? So the whole abortion story was fabricated? She never had an abortion." Ethan's mouth hung open, his face flushed with sudden mortifying shame. He took a step toward me, his voice cracking. Ashley, you never told me." "I told you 20 times, Ethan," I said, my voice dead and cold. "You just preferred to listen to the nanny's daughter." Before Ethan could answer, Dr. Reed cleared her throat and opened the second folder marked Tiffany Higgins. The courtyard went dead silent. "Patient Tiffany Higgins, Dr. Reed read, her tone devoid of emotion. The physical examination reveals extensive cervical scarring consistent with multiple surgical terminations, specifically 3 prior second trimester curettage procedures within the past 4 years. Jason staggered backward as if he had been struck with a baseball bat. What? What did you say? Furthermore, Dr. Reed continued, turning the page, the blood hormone panel and live ultrasound confirm that Miss Higgins is currently 7 weeks pregnant, with an active, viable intrauterine gestational sac. A collective shriek of shock echoed through the reporters. 3 abortions? She's 7 weeks pregnant right now? Who is the father? Tiffany stumbled out of the police van in handcuffs, her hair disheveled, tears and mascara running down her face in black streaks. It's a lie, Tiffany shrieked, lunging toward Jason. Jason, they altered the records. Ashley paid them off. You know I've only ever loved you. You know. Shut up. Robert roared, his face turning an apoplectic shade of purple. Raised his hand and slapped Tiffany across the face with enough force to send her crashing against the gravel. You shameless little whore. How dare you disgrace this family? Tiffany hit the ground, spitting blood. But when she looked up at Robert, the sweet, submissive facade was completely gone. She let out a harsh, broken laugh, wiping her bloody lip with the back of her cuffed hand. Disgrace your family, Robert? Tiffany sneered, her eyes blazing with demonic venom. Why are you pretending to be a righteous father now? Who paid for my 3 abortions in Switzerland? Who gave my mother the master key to the penthouse? You bought my silence for 10 years, and now you want to throw me away. Robert froze. The air left his lungs in a wheezing gasp. Every single reporter in the courtyard was filming in high definition. Cut the cameras, Robert screamed, lunging toward a cameraman from Channel 4. Turn those damn things off. I will sue every network in this city. You won't be suing anyone, Mr. Stone, Detective Vance said, stepping forward, with 2 uniformed officers. You are under arrest for conspiracy to commit grand larceny, insurance fraud, and witness tampering. Arrest? Robert gasped, clutching his chest. I am the CEO of the Stone conglomerate. This is my daughter's yacht. The vessel was titled exclusively in the name of Ashley Stone under a private family trust managed by her grandmother, Madame Clara Stone, Detective Vance stated calmly, pulling out a stack of banking records. 3 days ago, a forged power of attorney document bearing Miss Ashley Stone's copied signature was used to transfer the title of the Sea Empress to a Panamanian shell corporation named Golden Lotus Maritime. Vance turned the document toward the cameras. The wire transfer of $6.4 million from the vessel's liquidation did not go to any Buddhist temple or charitable institution. It was split into 2 accounts. $3 million into an offshore trust registered to Tiffany Higgins, and $3.4 million wired directly to a private account held by Robert Stone's personal holding company to cover his illicit gambling debts in Macau. The reporters went feral. Microphones were shoved within inches of Robert's nose. Mr. Stone, did you use your daughter's yacht to pay off gambling debts? Was the nanny's daughter your accomplice? Where is Mrs. Eleanor Stone? Why hasn't she been seen in public for 3 months? Jason stood in the center of the driveway, clutching his head with both hands. His entire world was collapsing in real time. He looked at Tiffany, who was being dragged toward a squad car, then at his father, who was being forced against the hood of a police cruiser with his hands cuffed behind his back. Dad. Tiffany. Jason choked out, his eyes wide and vacant. You two were stealing from Ashley? But you told me Ashley was an ungrateful slut. You told me Ashley was running our family into ruin. You idiot, I said, walking up to my brother, looking directly into his horrified, bloodshot eyes. You spent 4 years protecting a thief who was sleeping with your father and pocketing your inheritance, while treating your own flesh and blood like garbage. Jason fell to his knees in the dirt, his breath coming in dry, hysterical sobs. Ethan Miller rushed up beside me, his hands reaching out, his voice desperate and pleading. Ashley, please listen to me. I was tricked. I didn't know your father and Tiffany were conspiring against you. I swear to God I only broke the engagement because I thought you were hurting. The Miller family still wants you. We can hold the wedding next week. I looked at Ethan, at his expensive tailored suit, his handsome, shallow face, the cowardice dripping from every pore. In my past life, this was the man who had stood by while they locked me in the white room. This was the man who had toasted champagne with Tiffany while the nurses strapped me to the electroshock table. I pulled my hand back and delivered a ringing, backhanded slap across his cheek. The crack echoed across the silent driveway. Ethan stumbled back, clutching his face, his eyes wide with shock. The engagement is dead, Ethan, I said, wiping my fingers with a linen handkerchief before dropping it onto his shoes. And if you ever step foot on my grandmother's property again, I will have you prosecuted as an accomplice to fraud. Ashley, Ethan whimpered. Detective Vance, Grandma called out, her voice hard as granite. Take the criminals off my land and bring my private security detail inside. We have a mother to find. By nightfall, the Stone family scandal had completely dominated national headlines. The live footage of Tiffany's arrest, Robert's offshore accounts, and the medical exoneration had been viewed over 50 million times. The Stone Corporation's stock was in a freefall, and the board of directors had called an emergency midnight session to strip Robert of his CEO title. Inside my grandmother's private study, the air was thick with the scent of old mahogany, burning sage, and cold tension. A private investigator, Marcus Kane, a former military intelligence specialist, who had served my grandmother for 15 years, spread 3 satellite maps and a thick dossier across the oak desk. We traced the movements of Robert's private medical van over the last 90 days, Marcus said, pointing his laser pen at a heavily wooded parcel of land 40 miles north of the city. This is the Pinecrest Sanitarium. It's officially registered as an elite neurological retreat, but off the books, it's a high-security private containment facility owned by Dr. Howard, Roberts' personal physician. My heart hammered against my ribs. My mother is there? She was admitted 12 weeks ago under the alias Mary Higgins, the nanny's sister, Marcus said grimly. The medical admission file lists her as suffering from severe early-onset dementia and acute paranoid psychosis. Grandma's hand gripped the brass head of her cane so hard her veins stood out like cords. Dementia? Eleanor has a master's degree in biochemistry and ran our philanthropic foundation for 20 years. She didn't have a single trace of cognitive decline. She didn't have dementia, Madam Stone, Marcus continued, clicking to the next slide showing pharmacy delivery logs. Robert and Brenda Higgins, the nanny, had been lacing Eleanor's daily herbal tea with high doses of scopolamine and liquid thallium. It induces peripheral neuropathy, severe lethargy, and memory confusion. When Eleanor finally discovered the financial embezzlement and threatened to file for divorce, Robert had her declared legally incompetent and committed her overnight. A wave of cold, suffocating rage washed over me. In my past life, I had spent 2 years in that exact facility. I remembered the smell of bleach, the sound of the metal doors locking at 8 p.m., the heavy leather straps they used to pin my wrists to the bed frame while the nurses injected high doses of chlorpromazine to turn my brain into mush. My mother had been living through that exact hell while I was busy fighting over an $8 million yacht. We don't wait for a court order, I said, looking at Grandma, my voice razor sharp. The police will take 24 hours to process a search warrant through the county judge. Howard will move her or increase the dosage to silence her before dawn. Grandma looked up, her dark eyes flashing with the ruthless authority of a woman who had built an industrial empire from the ground up. Marcus, Grandma ordered, take 30 men from our private security corps. Take 3 medical transport teams. If anyone at that facility tries to block the gates, drive through the brick. At 2:30 a.m., the convoy of 6 black SUVs tore through the iron gates of Pinecrest Sanitarium, smashing the wooden security barrier into splinters. The facility was an imposing 4-story concrete structure tucked deep inside a dense pine forest, surrounded by 8-foot chain-link fences topped with razor wire. Before the private security guards could reach for their batons, Marcus's tactical team had swarmed the front entrance, disarming the guards, cutting the external telephone lines, and securing the main lobby within 90 seconds. Dr. Howard, wearing a silk bathrobe over his pajamas, came running down the marble stairs, screaming in a panic. What is the meaning of this? This is private medical property. I will call the state troopers. Marcus crossed the room in 2 strides, grabbed Howard by the throat and slammed him against the glass reception desk, pressing the barrel of a Glock against his temple. Where is Eleanor Stone? Marcus whispered. Howard's teeth chattered violently. Room 402. In the sub-basement. Please don't shoot. I didn't wait for the elevator. I took the concrete stairs 3 at a time, sprinting down into the cold, damp sub-basement where the air smelled of mold, industrial disinfectant, and despair. The heavy steel door of room 402 was secured with a digital keycard lock and an iron sliding bolt. Marcus kicked the electronic lock mechanism with his combat boot, shattering the casing, and threw the heavy door open. Inside, the room was lit by a single, buzzing fluorescent tube. Lying on a narrow iron cot, strapped down by heavy leather restraints across her chest and ankles, was my mother. She was so thin her collarbones protruded sharply beneath her gray institutional gown. Her once vibrant chestnut hair had turned mostly silver, matted against her pale forehead. Her hands were bruised from dozens of 4 needles, and her eyes were half closed, glazed over from heavy sedatives. Mom. My voice broke into a ragged, breathless sob. I rushed to the side of the cot, my hands shaking violently as I unbuckled the leather straps. When the cold buckles came undone, my mother's eyelids fluttered. She slowly turned her head, her clouded, bloodshot eyes trying to focus on my face. Ashley? Her voice was a dry, raspy whisper, barely louder than the hum of the light. Baby, is that you? Am I having another nightmare? It's me, Mom. I wept, pulling her fragile, shivering frame into my arms, burying my face in her shoulder. I'm here. Grandma is here. We're taking you home. Tears streamed down my mother's gaunt cheeks, soaking into my coat. Her frail, trembling hands came up to clutch my back with whatever strength she had left. Your father, Mom whispered, coughing weakly. He and Brenda, they took the trust papers. They wanted to kill you, Ashley. They wanted to put you in here. I know, Mom, I said, kissing her forehead, feeling the burning heat of her fever. They're in handcuffs. Every single one of them. 2 paramedics rushed into the room with a collapsible gurney and an oxygen tank, lifting my mother with gentle care. As we wheeled her through the front lobby, Dr. Howard was kneeling on the floor, in zip ties, while state police cruisers, finally arriving at the scene, surrounded the driveway with flashing red and blue lights. Detective Vance stepped into the lobby, took one look at my emaciated mother on the stretcher, and turned to Dr. Howard with pure, unadulterated disgust. Howard, Vance said, clicking his handcuffs. You're looking at 20 years. For attempted murder, kidnapping, and practicing medicine without a valid license. I walked out of the building into the cool, pre-dawn air, holding my mother's hand as the ambulance doors closed. The sun was just beginning to rise over the eastern ridge, painting the sky in violent shades of crimson and gold. The long night was finally over. The emergency shareholder meeting of the Stone Industrial Conglomerate was held at 10 a.m. on the 50th floor of the Stone Tower. The boardroom was packed with 30 institutional investors, corporate lawyers, and bank executives. Jason Stone sat in the back row, his eyes bloodshot, his clothes wrinkled, looking like a ghost. Across from him, Brenda Higgins, the nanny who had been arrested at her suburban home attempting to flee with 2 duffel bags of jewelry, sat in the corner under armed police guard, weeping and cursing. When the heavy oak double doors opened, the entire room stood up. My grandmother, Clara Stone, entered first, wearing an immaculate black Chanel suit, her silver hair gleaming beneath the crystal chandelier. And walking beside her, dressed in a sharp navy blazer, her chin held high, was my mother, Eleanor Stone, supported by my arm, her color slowly returning, her eyes sharp and completely lucid. The board members gasped. Mrs. Stone. She's alive. Look at her, she's completely competent. Grandma took her seat at the head of the boardroom table, while I placed a thick stack of certified legal documents in front of the corporate secretary. As the majority shareholder holding 52% of the voting equity, Grandma announced, her voice ringing through the room with absolute authority, I hereby execute the immediate removal of Robert Stone from all executive, directorial, and fiduciary roles within the Stone conglomerate. The board members raised their hands in unanimous agreement within 5 seconds. Item 2, Grandma continued, turning her gaze toward the door. Under the provisions of the Stone Family Foundation, the executive management of the primary logistics, maritime, and real estate divisions is transferred entirely to Miss Ashley Stone. Jason stood up abruptly, his chair screeching against the hardwood floor. Grandma, what about me? Jason cried out, his voice cracking with desperation. I'm the only son. I'm the heir. You can't give everything to Ashley. My mother slowly turned her head, looking at Jason with an expression of profound, heartbreaking pity. She pulled a sealed white envelope from her handbag and slid it across the table, until it stopped in front of Jason's shaking hands. Open it, Jason, Mom said softly. Jason tore the envelope open with trembling fingers. It was a certified DNA paternity and maternity report, conducted by the state forensic lab using blood samples taken during yesterday's raid. Jason's eyes scanned the bold text at the bottom. Maternal compatibility, Eleanor Stone 0% paternal compatibility, Robert Stone 99.99% biological mother, Brenda Higgins. Jason's knees gave out. He collapsed back into his chair, the paper fluttering from his fingers to the carpet. No. Jason whispered, his voice rising to a frantic, broken shriek. No. That's impossible. I'm Eleanor's son. I was born in the private hospital. Tell me it's a lie. You were born to Brenda in a private clinic in Florida 24 years ago. Mom said, her voice steady and cold. Robert switched you with my stillborn baby boy while I was unconscious under general anesthesia. For 24 years I raised you as my own son, poured my love into you, gave you the best education in the world. And when the time came, you helped your biological mother poison my tea and tried to murder your sister. Brenda Higgins burst into loud, hysterical sobs in the corner, clawing at her handcuffs. Jason, my baby, Brenda wailed. I did it for you. I wanted you to have the whole company. I wanted you to be the master of the Stone family. Shut up. Shut up, you monster. Jason screamed, throwing his water glass at Brenda's head, shattering the crystal against the wall. You ruined me. You made me sleep with my own sister. You made me destroy my own life. The boardroom erupted into chaos as police officers moved in to restrain both Jason and Brenda, dragging them out through the security corridors while the board members watched in stunned, horrified silence. I stood beside my mother and grandmother at the head of the long mahogany table. I looked out through the floor-to-ceiling glass windows at the sprawling city skyline below. In my past life, this room had been the venue where they declared me insane. This was the building where they stripped my name from the registry and left me to rot in the dark. Now the sun was shining bright across the glass, reflecting the golden light of an empire that was finally, rightfully mine. 6 months later, the county superior courtroom was packed to maximum capacity for the final sentencing hearing in the state versus Robert Stone, Brenda Higgins, and Tiffany Higgins. The trial had been swift and merciless. Faced with forensic financial trails, encrypted email archives, toxicology evidence, and the testimony of 42 witnesses, the defense had collapsed. Within 3 days, Judge Harrison, a veteran jurist known for her unyielding stance on domestic and financial crimes, banged her gavel 3 times, silencing the packed gallery. In my 35 years on the bench, Judge Harrison stated, her voice echoing through the vaulted oak room, I have rarely witnessed a more calculated, depraved, and systemic display of familial greed and criminal cruelty. She turned her gaze toward Robert Stone, who sat at the defense table in a bright orange correctional jumpsuit, his hands cuffed to a chain around his waist, his once arrogant posture hunched and broken. Robert Stone. For the charges of attempted murder in the first degree, kidnapping, grand larceny, and corporate embezzlement, you are hereby sentenced to 35 years at the state maximum security penitentiary, with no eligibility for parole for the first 25 years. Robert closed his eyes, a single tear cutting through the dirt on his gaunt cheek, as his head sank against the table. Brenda Higgins, the judge continued, for your role as co-conspirator in the attempted poisoning and unlawful confinement of Eleanor Stone, as well as fraud and child substitution, you are sentenced to 28 years in state custody. And Tiffany Higgins. Tiffany stood between 2 bailiffs, her face pale, her hands resting over her swollen 7-month belly. For the charges of grand theft, interstate wire fraud, perjury, and conspiracy to commit extortion, you are sentenced to 12 years at the Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. Furthermore, an order of complete financial restitution in the amount of $8.2 million is entered against you, requiring the forfeiture of all domestic and offshore assets. Bang! The gavel struck the block with a final, definitive crack. Tiffany let out a high-pitched, strangled cry, collapsing into the arms of the bailiffs as they dragged her toward the holding cells. As she passed the front row of the gallery, her bloodshot eyes locked onto mine. I was sitting between my mother and grandmother, dressed in an elegant ivory suit, a single diamond pendant resting against my collarbone. Ashley, Tiffany screamed, spit flying from her trembling lips. Ashley, please. I'm having a baby. Look at my stomach. You can't let my child be born in prison. Have mercy on me. I looked at her, at the woman who had stolen my yacht, fabricated my abortions, and danced on my grave in another lifetime. I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel hatred. I felt only the cold, vast, and beautiful indifference of a survivor who had finally stepped out of the storm. You should have thought about mercy, I said quietly, my voice carrying clearly over the sound of the chains, before you sold my life for a piece of gold. The heavy steel door of the holding cell slammed shut, cutting off her screams. Forever. 1 year later, the summer sun blazed over the deep blue waters of the Atlantic harbor, painting the waves in sparkling sheets of gold and silver. Tied to the central VIP berth at the private yacht club was a brand new 90-foot luxury mega yacht, sleek, modern, its hull crafted from midnight blue carbon fiber, gleaming beneath the midday sky. On the stern, painted in bold, platinum lettering, was its name, The Rebirth. On the upper deck, a celebration was underway. Dozens of business partners, honest family allies, and loyal friends were raising crystal champagne flutes, laughing as the sea breeze ruffled their hair. My mother, Eleanor, looked radiant in a white linen dress, her health fully restored, laughing as she poured champagne for Grandma Clara, who sat comfortably on a plush leather lounger beneath the shade of the bimini top. I stood at the bow of the ship, leaning against the teak railing, a glass of sparkling cider in my hand, looking out toward the open horizon. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was a message from Marcus Kane with the monthly legal monitoring report. Robert Stone's appeal for medical furlough was officially denied by the state parole board. Jason Stone has been discharged from psychiatric rehabilitation and is currently working as a night shift warehouse clerk in another state, living on minimum wage. Ethan Miller's family business went into Chapter 11 bankruptcy last month after our conglomerate terminated all supply chain contracts. He was seen working at a suburban car dealership. I read the message, smiled faintly, and swiped the notification away into the digital void. They were ghosts. And ghosts had no place under a clear, open sky. Ashley, my mother called from the aft deck, waving her glass with a bright, beautiful smile. The captain is asking for your orders. Which way are we heading? I looked out at the vast, sparkling ocean stretching endlessly before me, free of chains, free of lies, and full of infinite light. I raised my glass toward the open sea and called back. Straight ahead, Mom. Full speed.